we take a look at the biggest tabletop RPG crowdfunders of 2024 so far.
Now you have my attention.
The Dungeon Coach's DC20 Kickstarter officially ended this week, with the campaign raising over $2.2 million. The campaign is the fifth crowdfunding campaign to cross the all-important $1 million mark in 2024. We're talking, of course, about tabletop RPGs, and we're not counting any late pledges there. Now, this $1 million mark is an important milestone for TTRPG crowdfunders, as there's actually been less than 40 campaigns in all of history, which is, really lasts like 10-15 years, that have ever met that milestone. So, we're going to look at the 5 projects that have passed the $1 million mark this year, and look ahead to one other project that will almost certainly wind up on this list. So, number 1, Monsters of Drakkenheim, a 5e expansion of sorts on the Dungeons of Drakkenheim project. The supplement, published by Ghostfire Gaming and created by the Dungeon Dudes, raised about $1.06 million. Notably, the Drakkenheim campaign setting is now on D&D Beyond, and this project was actually billed as having D&D Beyond support, a first for a Kickstarter project. Number 2, the Field Guide to Floral Dragons. This was a 5e project made by Hit Point Press and was inspired by Kinwald's fantastic illustrations of various dragons that, looked like flowers. The book introduced all these new kinds of dragons that were inspired by various kinds of flowers, and that kind of mixed together these fae sensibilities with dragons. The project raised $1.1 million. Number 3, Adventure Time, the role-playing game, a 5e supplement bringing the world of Adventure Time to the tabletop. Published by Cryptozoic, which is interesting just in that they're not really a tabletop RPG publisher, usually. This project was also notable in that it dropped a planned new game system in favor of focusing on the 5e supplement, which they had already planned to make. They just decided to drop the bespoke system for just focusing on 5e rules. Now, this project raised $1.57 million. Number 4, DC20. The DC20 system was created by the Dungeon Coach as a D&D alternative. Now, we've run a few different videos on how the game works, so I encourage you to check those out. But the gist of it is that it's designed to provide more mechanical crunch than 5e, while providing more options and solving some of the weaknesses found in 5e games. It's a fun system, and we can't wait to get it on our table. And finally, of course, the MCDM RPG, another D&D alternative by Matt Colville's MCDM Productions. This game looks to be inspired more from 4e than 5e, with a system that actually rewards players for succeeding in combat, and also a no-hit roll system, which is pretty cool. Now, the MCDM RPG raised over $4.6 million, making it the third largest tabletop RPG crowdfunder of all time. Now, as we can see from this list, the big crowdfunding campaign projects tend to fall in one of two buckets. MCDM, DC20, and Drakkenheim all came from established influencer/content creators who have been promoting these projects in one form or another for quite a while, which means that, obviously that's a bunch of advertisement for their eventual crowdfunding project. Matt Colville has been talking about the MCDM RPG for years. DC20, Dungeon Coach has been talking it up for about a year and a half and has actually gone into great detail about his design philosophies. And the Dungeon Dudes, of course, they ran a Drakkenheim campaign long before they published their Drakkenheim campaign setting. Meanwhile, the Floral Dragons and Adventure Time RPGs, those benefited from being 5e projects. 5e is, of course, the biggest tabletop RPG out there right now, and they were either backed by an existing IP or just having a very striking design. Honestly, the Floral Dragons project, it's a little bit of an outlier in terms of crowdfunding, although Hit Point Press does know how to run 7-figure Kickstarters because they've run 6 of them so far. So they absolutely seem to know what they're doing, and they've built up a pretty big fan base over the course of several years. The other big project that, we want an excuse to talk about, of course, is the Stormlight RPG by Brotherwise Games. Now, Brotherwise, of course, is another newcomer to tabletop RPGs, although they certainly do know what they're doing when it comes to crowdfunding. They have a history of running very successful crowdfunding campaigns, and they run a few, just about every year or so. Now, we've mentioned before that because of the Stormlight Archives IP, which is a novel series written by Brandon Sanderson, who's one of the biggest fantasy writers in the world today, and literally holds the record for the biggest Kickstarter of all time. So we're expecting that this project is going to be one of the biggest crowdfunding tabletop RPG projects of all time, and it's going to start in just about a month. So get excited for that real soon. Let us know what some of your favorite tabletop RPG crowdfunding projects were, and no, they don't need to be $1 million or more projects. We just want to hear about some of your favorite games that have hit the table thanks to crowdfunding in the comments section, and as always, don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons.